It's the Brad and John Show.
The Brad and John Show. Today's date is August 6th, and we will talk about why that's a very important date. But first off, a couple things to take care of. First off, John, I have a problem that I want to address, and this is a truth in labeling problem, okay? Will you work with me on this?
Yeah, I'd love to.
I bought a bottle of pure aqua black cherry flavored sparkling water the other day because, I like this kind of stuff. And I went on the back of it to look at the nutrition facts. Now, here's the interesting thing. This is confusing because sometimes you just glance at this, you go, oh, it's not that bad. It says about 3 servings per container, and the serving size is 12 fluid ounces, okay? So it says under calories per serving, 0. Per serving is 0. Now keep in mind it says there's 3 servings per container.
Okay, so that makes sense. So the entire bottle should have 0 calories.
Instead it says per container 10 calories. So if you have 0 calories per serving and there's 3 servings in the bottle, 0 times 3 should be what, John?
0.0.
Where do they come
Now, Brad, maybe there's something, just thinking out loud here, maybe there's something on nutritional labels where if the calorie count is less than like 5, then they're allowed to put a big honking 0 on it. And then they have to disclose later on the label, well, actually, it's not 0, but it's between 0 and 5. You get what I'm saying? Like maybe I don't know enough about labels to know that that's the case, but that would be my thinking out loud explanation.
I agree, but once again, talk about, remember we had this whole thing, we have to have proper labeling on our food and things like that. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but I would also point out, Brad, I know that one thing doesn't necessarily have to do with another, but for a man who shovels Wendy's down his gullet on a frequent basis and a man who attempts to have his intestines process White Castle, I think the quibble about 10 calories in a 36-ounce drink is pretty silly.
You really do, huh?
Yeah, and I mean, but here's the thing, though. It can definitely be remedied by eating ice cream in your car in a parking lot.
John, it's funny you should mention that because I had a fit of depression last night. So what do? I get in my car and I drive to McDonald's. And so far I'm 0 for 3. I've never had a McFlurry in my life because every time I go to McDonald's, the machine is broke.
I think that's the Lord Jesus' way of telling you that you don't need to get a dopamine spike from a McFlurry, Brad. I think you should do it by just doing hard things and feeling your feelings.
I went through the drive-thru last night at 9 o'clock, and I ordered my McFlurry, my M&M McFlurry, and I actually got it. And I sat in the parking lot, and only one guy came up and panhandled me when I was in the parking lot. I sat and ate my McFlurry in the parking lot. So anyway, it's funny you should bring that up. Okay. The story about Charlamagne the God, and the reason this gets sort of interesting because he was interviewed Saturday on My View with Lara Trump. Charlamagne, and if you know who Charlamagne the God is, I think they run him here in St. Louis. I think he's on, is he on 100?
He's on one of the black stations, right? It's the Breakfast Club show. It's been around for probably 20 plus years.
Right. He claimed in the article or in the interview with Lara Trump that President Trump hadn't delivered on his key campaign promises, such as improving the economy for the people who needed it the most. He says, quote, "I wouldn't give it a good rating simply because the least of us are still being impacted by the worst," he said of Trump's second term. He argued that the Trump's American big bill would be hurt by the Americans would be hurt. Trump responded by calling Charlamagne a racist sleazebag on
oh no.
On a scathing Truth Social post on Sunday. He says, okay, what does Trump always say about people that he doesn't like? What's the first thing he always says, John?
Well, he usually gives them a nickname.
No, well, but then he calls them, what kind of an individual are there? Come on. I mean, it's 2 letters. I'm giving you a hint.
Is it low IQ?
Exactly. This is Trump's tweet, our truth, whatever you want to call it. He's a low IQ individual, has no idea what words are coming out of his mouth, and knows nothing about me or what I've done, Trump wrote in the Post defending his record. The feud continued Monday this week after Charlamagne responded to Trump on The Breakfast Club. He laughed off the personal insults about his intelligence and joked that some people might agree that he's a sleazebag. He says, I looked up the definition of sleazebag. This is Charlamagne the God. Says it's a disgusting, despicable person, depending upon who. Oh, my phone moved. I hate it when you do that. Did you ever do that? You're reading something on your phone, everything.
Do you know how I solved that issue when you and I are on the air, Brad?
How's that, John?
I just started doing that this week. So when I read a story, so for example, the KSTK story about the Delta 8 THC stuff, I know that if I have it up on my phone or on a screen, it's probably going to play 7,000 videos and reload 5 times. So on my phone, Brad, I just take a screenshot of the content that I'm going to read on the air with you. And then that way, when I read from the screen or the screenshot, I don't have to worry about the page reloading.
John, I do this well too, but there's too many screenshots here. Okay, depending upon who you ask, that may apply to me, Charlamagne Remington. I personally prefer friendly neighborhood a-hole. That's what Charlamagne the God says.
And also, how ecstatic was Charlamagne when he saw that Trump addressed him directly?
Yeah,
it's kind of like
course.
your comment yesterday, Brad, about the Epstein plane and the Epstein list.
Right, exactly.
Like, it would be a compliment to say that you had that sort of notoriety.
Yes, especially since the thing has become such a huge story. You could say, hey, I'm on the Epstein list. People go, wow, really?
Yeah. And for Charlamagne, if you recall, Brad, we talked about him last year during the presidential campaign once Kamala Harris became the nominee, because a lot of Democrats were mad at Charlamagne because he wasn't falling in line with Kamala Harris, and he had been somewhat critical. And so now Charlamagne's able to go back to the liberal folks and say, hey, see, Trump hates me. I'm still on your guys' team. You guys should still court me.
Well, the interesting thing for me is Charlamagne the God is actually very interesting to me because he doesn't toe the line that everybody thinks he does. You know what I mean? He's a free-thinking kind of guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I by the way, generally, I'm positive about Charlamagne. I think that a lot of stuff he did 20 years ago. So I've been listening to the Breakfast Club forever, but I just call them the Breakfast Crew. That's on the Eagle, not the Eagle. What are they called? Tracy Station.
Yeah, Tracy Station. The Morning Brew Crew or whatever it is. Where does it?
Yeah, the Morning Crew. Anyway, the Breakfast Club on with Charlamagne. Anyway, but a long time ago he was pretty silly, and people would come on and he'd constantly instigate people. But as he's gotten a little bit more reserved or a little bit more serious, I like him a lot.
Oh, look, I'm with you. And once again, I'm a radio guy. He does great for radio because people listen to him, and once again, the thing about it is sometimes you don't know where he's coming from, which is good. I mean, to the point where, and I think he really speaks from the heart. And going further on this, he says, I didn't bring up the fact that President Trump issued an executive order directing oversight of institutions like the Smithsonian to remove or suppress narratives about systematic racism in black history. He went into it. He says, they want to reframe cultural memory to eliminate discussions of historical racial injustice. That, along with the termination of diversity and civil rights programs, are considered very racist by a lot of civil rights advocates. I didn't even bring that up, okay? I was just talking to your base, letting your base know that you haven't kept the promise you made in regards to the economy, he continued. So essentially, he's saying, Trump, hey, you haven't done. And let's be honest. Remember, on the campaign trail, Trump said he was going to be able to fix the Ukrainian-Russian war, what did he say, 24 hours, 48 hours, something like that?
Yeah, you're exactly right.
And he's been in office for, 6 months now? 6 months, 7 months? And they're still killing each other, which, and he's even admitted that he doesn't know what to do. He's going to try to do these tariffs and things like that against the people that are buying oil and gasoline from Russia, natural gas and stuff like that. And now India's pushed back. I don't know if you saw that. Trump's saying that he's going to push stiffer tariffs on countries that are, doing business with Russia. And the Indian government essentially said, hey, look, we're going to do business with whoever we want. We're like the 4th largest economy in the world. Don't tell us what to do. And to a certain extent, I agree with that. I mean, sometimes as Americans, the reason that there was, what was it, a long time ago, the book called, The Ugly American? Remember that book, John, a long time ago?
I don't remember it, but I didn't read it, but I'm familiar with it, yeah.
Essentially the idea being that Americans, as we travel around the world, get sort of nasty and demanding because, hey, we're Americans. And I feel that way too. I mean, let's say, and we have this all the time, where our government, they take one of the MQ-9, I think is the designation, the Reaper drones, and it goes and it blows somebody up in another country. Okay, Let's do the flip test in that. And Russia all of a sudden flew one of their drones over and blew up somebody in Wentzville. We'd go, whoa, wow, wow. Everybody would be
now,
going.
If they sent it to Cottleville, I think that'd be a different story.
Hold it.
Now, wait a minute. I thought Russia wasn't using drones. Is anybody in that area involved in warfare that's using asymmetrical warfare?
John, you're making fun of me again.
Hey, what happened with Howard Stern, Brad?
It's been rumored that Howard Stern, that these are the last few months of him being on the air. And part of it has to do, and this is sort of interesting, part of it has to do with the fact that his listenership, and he's on Sirius XM, so they pretty much know who's listening because of the fact that they have good statistics on that because of the way the system works. Not tremendously accurate, but pretty good statistics. That he has alienated so many listeners because of his continual tirades against Trump. And does that sound familiar? Like maybe a late night talk show host? Or
the entire MSNBC network.
Right. And the point being is the word broadcasting means, and I get it that everybody does narrowcasting now, just exactly what we're doing. But the term broadcasting means that you're broadcasting something to a wide audience. And when you start tearing down Trump in the United States, you've pretty much alienated half the population. Wouldn't you say that, John? Essentially half the population?
Wait a minute. Are you describing the St. Louis Public Radio model?
Yes. Or Stephen Colbert or Jimmy Kimmel. It's to the point where I don't get it. And to the point where if you go back and read, there's a couple of interesting interviews that you can find on YouTube where they're interviewing Johnny Carson. And he gets asked this question on a couple different occasions. And he comes right out and says, I don't talk politics because of the fact that is going to alienate part of my audience, and I don't want to have any of my audience alienated. And remember, we talked about the thing that Jay Leno, somebody went back and did all this analysis of Jay Leno, and he would do jokes about politicians, and they said it was pretty much 50-50. He'd say a funny joke about the Dems, he'd say a funny joke about the Repubs, that kind of a thing. And even to the point where what I don't understand, and what I've talked about on this radio station, is I want anybody from any political stripes to listen to this radio station. I'm not going to go like Tracy Ellis and go, if you're a rhino, we don't like you, go somewhere else. Let's say Tracy, in a real estate business, if somebody called her up and said, hey, Tracy, I want to list my house with you. And she says, are you a rhino? And they said, well, quite honestly, I am. Well, I don't want to list your house. Do you think she'd do that? Of course not. And the point being is, why do businesses do that? And it's to the point where, like St. Louis City, why do you kick a guy out who has a MAGA hat on when, like you pointed out, they're selling on their website, they're selling Pride Fest, or what was it you talked about? You actually went on the website.
Yeah, it was their pregame warm-ups. And you can get a woman's, pregame warm-up shirt for only $69, Brad. It's easy to remember because that's what Schnelting wants you to drive in the fast lane.
And wasn't it like a Pride Fest jersey or something like that, or a warm-up?
Yeah, it was Pride themed, Brad. It was like it was like rainbow camo. Like, what a combination that is. But the point is, and the gentleman that had been kicked out of the game was pointing to the officers and saying, look, there's pride flags over there.
Yes,
is that
exactly. Not a statement? Right. And it's just like, okay, selective enforcement and stuff like that. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, but the other thing is, Brad, if you could, and you know way more about this than I do, but I guess that they would want to segment their audience and say, whether you're a conservative station or whether you're a left-wing, whatever that Wisconsin spice company was that didn't want Republicans buying their spices, maybe if your whole thing is, look, I'm going to gamble on this, I'm going to eliminate a lot of people, but the attention I get from partisans is going to be so strong that I'll make it up because every hippie will buy my spices to show Donald Trump that he's a fascist.
John, you know who he bring into the discussion here? And by
the
way,
I bring that in?
Pull your headphones off for a minute. You ready?
Okay, wait a minute. I know who it's going to be. Is he on PCP?
Just want to say, can we all get along? Can we get along?
The great Rodney King. Why can't we all just get along, John? I don't understand it. I'll never understand it. And more than ever, I'm not going to say it. It just drives me nuts. So I got to clear my throat.
Well, I don't know, but here's the thing. I also want to go to a place where they enforce standards. Like when I go to the Cottleville Weldon Spring Chamber of Commerce meeting, I know there's not going to be any riffraff there. You know what I'm saying? Because I know if there's riffraff, they're going to grab that guy by the scruff of the neck and throw him out. And then he's going to go home and pay his membership dues. And then they're going to feel bad and be like, okay, Brad, you can come back.
Well, before she threw me out, you know what she did? She looked straight in my eyes, and you know what she said?
Did she click her red heels together, Brad?
She looked straight in my eyes, and she said,
"What would you do with a brain if you had one?"
She said.
You know, we mentioned Caesar's Palace a while back in A Block, Brad.
Yes.
Does MGM, do they pay you for every time you use that clip? Because I still can't figure out why you became so enamored with that.
I think it's the funniest thing.
Here's what I think. I think that's a little inside joke between you and like Tulsi Gabbard. Because you know she listens to the show every morning between 7 and 8. And one day you were having pillow talk with her. And she's like, I want you to do something so that I know you're thinking of me when you're on the air with John. And you were just being funny. You're like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Play a Wizard of Oz clip? And she goes, yes, that'd be great. And I think that's why you do it.
John, you have outed me, John. That's all I can say.
I don't know if it's Tulsi or sometimes I don't know if it's, Nancy Mace. She's super hot. I don't know who it is, but it's got to be somebody.
It could have been Christy Nome, but yes, it was Tulsi Gabbard.
Christy Nome, that's who I was thinking of. Sorry, Brad. I get my brunette, hot Republican chicks confused sometimes,
John, you've outed me, and now everybody knows. Everybody knows that I've had that pillow talk with not with Christy Nome, with Tulsi Gabbard, and to the point where I still admire military persons, and how much admiration can I have for someone who is, I believe she's a major now.
I know, and she said to you, will you not salute your superior officer? And you said, hey, the doctor said I don't need a prescription for these anymore.
Okay, John, on that note, we will move on, and we will talk tomorrow morning. Have a great hump day.
You too, Brad.